you?
What's up, man?
Hey, sir.
How are you, man?
Good, good. How are you? It's nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too, man. People need to stop asking me how I'm doing, man. They should know. Let's keep going.
So it's great to have you on, man. I've been listening to your podcast with Jason Ackerman on Best Hour of Their Day, and all the stuff that you've been putting out on your AfroBrutality Instagram handle and your personal one. And I wanted to have you on because I think right now with everything that's going on in CrossFit and this time, I think it's important that people hear your perspective on things. And
thank you, man. Thank you.
I have my friend Mo, Mr. Mo. We call him Mr. Mo here. He's a member at our gym, and I want to basically come on here to listen and to facilitate some conversation between you two, so that people can gain some perspective on what's going on. I want to start this and preface this with, the fact that I myself am the definition of white privilege. I grew up in suburbia with a white family, and unfortunately I don't know the extent of Black history in America, really, or Canada. So, but I think it's important, and I'm starting to learn a lot more about it nowadays. And the Black Lives Matter movement is huge right now, and with everything that's going on in CrossFit, you formerly had an affiliate and you're involved in the CrossFit world. So I'd like to start with you just sort of introducing yourself, Sin, to everybody.
Okay.
Your background a little bit, and give people some reasons, why should we listen to what you have to say, because I know there's a lot of people out there that don't really know your background.
Well, thank you, man. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, or when you hear this. My name is Sin Martinez. My background's pretty diverse. I was raised, my mother was a Black Panther, former Black Panther. So she taught me at a very early age about civil rights movements. And, I joke, but when kids were getting Three Little Pigs, Hansel and Gretel, and fun with Dick and Jane, my mother was talking about March on Washington, the assassination of Malcolm X, Huey P. Newton. Like, that's just how I was raised. So I was raised with a unique ability to, and this was in the burbs, man. I was in the suburbs. And she just wanted to make sure that even though we were living in the white suburbs, or, a white community for the most part, that I never forgot who I was, that I had a sense of pride, that I didn't have to go there and play with the Ken doll and all that. My mother bought the black G.I. Joe, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I grew up with things that were all Black, and I grew up with things that are about empowerment and movement, stuff like that. And it does a lot of things to a child, man. It's a little traumatic, you got your mother at home telling you the white man is basically the devil or the enemy, and your best friend is white. Like, they take you to Nantucket for the summer, and you go to Martha's Vineyard, and you're living in these big houses, and the whole time in the back of your mind you're like, man, they might turn on me one day, in the back of your mind they might stop inviting me to places. They might start hating on me all of a sudden as they get older. And for the record, that never necessarily happened. But let me get a little back to myself. So in 2007, I came across CrossFit. Just some guys were talking about it in the corner, and I went home and did my own research instead of asking them. I went home and did my own research on it. And, growing up, understanding startups and understanding trends and setting a few that I never got paid for, I saw this as the new trend. I'm like, man, this is going to be some bigness. It just made sense, man. Instead of just running and then, just days that you run or days that you lift, let's just put it all together and push a button, go for time. And I was like, man, it was the most amazing thing I had seen. And I really kept it covert, man. I brought it to Harlem first just to make sure, or just to get a sense from where the Black community was going to be at with this. You know, there were comments and there were things rustling down for years. There were things that were rustling. There were things that were rustling down for years, since 2008, about politics. You know, are these guys racist? Are they not racist? Can we trust them? Are they going to take care of us? Like, you know, we weren't sure, man. We had meetings and conversations about this since 2008. But Greg, I got into the certification part because I realized that you could turn this into a business, and I really didn't know that. So I started to seek out all the certifications. You know, I was changing careers. I was a sales manager. I had about 25 people that reported to me. And I was making, you know, I was fat, you know, I was like super overweight. And I went the triathlon route. You know, I lost the weight, but during and towards the end, I found CrossFit. And I thought it was a good way to go from, you know, what I used to do, which is long bike runs and long swims and long, you know, actual runs, to something a little bit more intense, because I felt like that could be something I could bring to the community. Because when I lost all the weight in 2007, everybody was asking me how I did it. You know, I literally lost 120 pounds, and people were like, how'd you do it? And I really did it through triathlons. And I would teach a few running classes for some kids that were in my building, and then I would teach some calisthenics and stuff like that. But I really didn't have something I felt I could turn into a business. CrossFit provided that, man. I saw a business opportunity immediately, and I ended up leaving my job. I ended up what happened was my CEO at the time went puddle jumping or something like that and crashed his plane and died. The wife inherited everything, and they brought in restructuring. So they laid us all off. And this was at the exact same time that I was choosing whether I wanted to train people in CrossFit. So it was kind of like a perfect storm. And I just jumped right into it. But we really weren't going to affiliate, man. You know, I might have to start talking about this. You know, we did think they were racist. We thought it was a mess. You know, we were like, man, we don't want to get into this, man. You know, the Black community is harsh, man. If they start calling us racist or, you know, Uncle Tom or, you know, all this other madness. So, you know, Greg Glassman, he came to Harlem, and he said, listen, man, we'll take care of you. You ain't got to worry about it. Like, we'll make sure everything's good, man. We'll feed you resources and stuff like that. And, you know, his people at the table, some of them had been with me at different certifications. So it was a new relationship. They didn't understand me. They wasn't sure what my intentions were. I sort of looked like I was playing the race card. You know, I sort of looked like I was begging for help or something like that. So, you know, I affiliated in 2009. And though there was no like money exchange, you know, they just promoted me like crazy, man. You know, they put me on their Facebook. They put me, at that time, it was only Facebook, because we're talking 2008, 2009. You know, they put me on the Facebook page, you know, in 2010. And the relationship got better, you know, and Rogue Fitness reached out because I was coaching different athletes and stuff like that went to the games, because I realized this was what I was taking on was just so much bigger than me, man. It wasn't one man. I'm speaking for an entire community, and I want to do it the right way. So I got the affiliate, CrossFit Harlem. Again, you know, we weren't going to do it, man. We wanted to kind of influence the Black community from the outside to just do CrossFit, not necessarily be part of the hysteria. You know what I mean? We didn't want them to have to answer to stuff that Glassman was doing back then. Back in 2008, man, 2009, even 2010 and 11. Like, for people that are in CrossFit, man, this is no different than things that he had done before. He just didn't do it at a time where everyone is watching what everyone is doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you ask any CrossFitter, man, and if they're 1,000% with you, they'll say, man, that's Glassman. Oh, I can't believe he said it. It's terrible. It's disgusting. that's who we got at the helm. You know, like,
That's right. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've all been able to establish businesses around the hysteria, but this one went to blow in our face.
Mo, I want you to just kind of give a brief little background of yourself and just sort of your first impression with CrossFit, and you know, if you had impressions of the community, you know, being racist from the start, like Sin was talking about, or what?
Yeah. So I think a big thing for me is I started CrossFit and
I'm sorry, it was Mo again?
Yeah, Mo.
Mo, good morning, man. I'm Sin.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning
to
to you,
meet you,
sir.
man.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
I try to stop people from just jumping in, man. We gotta still love each other, man. We still gotta say
No worries, man. I want
we
you to
still
go
gotta
off,
say
man.
thank you, and I appreciate you. You know, like
I know, 100%.
sometimes, especially us, man, we're so passionate right now. We're so upset that we're not thinking straight. But I apologize, man. Go ahead.
That's exactly it, man. I recently had to speak out, but yeah, I'll get into that. My experiences right now. I started in CrossFit. I think it was 2013.
Mm-hmm.
It was right at the first year that NCR had actually opened. Just 2 months into NCR opening. Prior to that, I'd been fairly sedentary. I'd gained a ton of weights. I didn't really know what to do to work out. Tried different things, always kind of failed. And so then when I kind of started doing my own research, I started getting into strength training. And one of the videos that I watched on YouTube talked about CrossFit. I looked it up, and at the time that I first initially looked it up, there was no CrossFit gyms in my area, nowhere that I was close to. The way Ottawa is kind of structured is there's a bunch of suburbs in different areas, but I was never familiar with those areas. So I was like, you know what, I'm not going to venture out to those places. And then 2013, right around regionals, I started seeing the, obviously the hype around regionals. And I opened up once again. I'm like, you know what, let me check to see if there's another gym in my area. And boom, out of nowhere comes, NCR. So I'm like, all right, next day I'm going to pop in, I'm going to try it. Got in there, gym was empty because everyone at the gym apparently was at regionals. And I was like, you know what, there's 2 people in the class, let me go and try it. Got demolished, and I had, came back ever since.
And what in terms of CrossFit and racism, like, did you ever get the sense that the community at large, or even just the individual gym, was potentially an unwelcoming place, or what was that sense? Were you?
So I can speak to that. So it's a different thing, I think, for some of the Black people and minorities in these cities, because it's not the feeling that you are, anybody there was racist or anybody there was unwelcoming, but you're going into a space that's completely white. From when I was entering it, I was completely, in a situation where I'm like, there's no one that I know, no one that looks like me. So there's a little bit of like a unfamiliarity. There's like a sense of discomfort, but thankfully, and I always attribute this to our own community, I was welcomed immediately when I came in there. And I was like, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to try it out for a month. Whether people talk to me or not, that's fine. I'm going to just do what I do and see how that kind of goes. But me showing up constantly, people getting to know me, became a thing where it was pretty evident that the community was very welcoming. But from the outside looking in, it's one of those things where like, okay, well, it's one of those things where it's like it looks to be like almost like a country club. There's a certain demographic of people who are there. I don't know if I'm going to be welcome. So there's apprehension before going in there. And once you're there, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, now I feel welcome.
So it's almost like Sin's experience of CrossFit, because he sort of built it from the ground up in Harlem, obviously is a very different one in terms of the vibes of his box compared to, you coming into our gym in Ottawa. Let's talk straight up about the heck is going on in CrossFit right now. Greg Glassman tweeted, "It's Floyd 19," and the world went crazy.
Yeah.
Sin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
It's low for some reason. I don't know if that's me or you.
It's what?
I can barely hear you.
Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Just barely. Did I do something?
Well, maybe you got to turn your volume up a little bit.
Oh, I got it.
Oh, there we go. So Sin, Greg Glassman makes that tweet, and like, what happened, man? Like, can you explain why everyone's going crazy in the CrossFit world right now?
Well, let me tell you something, man. Damn. Let's see if I'm doing this right. I'm sorry. Okay. It looks a little better. I've been talking to him since last Tuesday, man. Unfortunately, he thinks that Floyd 19 is some kind of mathematical equation of how you get police brutality, quarantine, George Floyd. You know, he thought it was some kind of equation for what's happening in the community right now, what's happening in America, what's happening with our society. You know, this is classic Greg, man. It's just classic Greg, man. He actually thought he either did two things. He either thought he was doing more harm. He actually thought he had a theory that he could share with the world that somehow it was going to save us. Oh, Greg's going to save the Black community with his great, mathematical equation of Floyd 19. I mean, that was his intent, man. Or his intent was to try to prove his theory, because he really thinks he's the smartest in the room. And there's many times that he is, but there's many times that he put his foot in his mouth, man, and he just did it,
Yeah.
And then subsequently the CrossFit world lights it on fire, right?
Well, what you're seeing now is people are taking advantage of a man on his knees.
Yeah.
The man's on his knees, man. He's weak. He showed his weakness, man, and everyone's going after it, man. In our name, they're going after it in the Black affiliate name. They're going after it in the Black community name. They're going after this super crazy narrative when they've been hated this guy forever. And now they're just taking a chance to close contracts. And, I won't pay my affiliate fee. Everyone is suffering, dude. We're all broke, right?
So I want you to explain.
We're going after the guys at the top who got the money.
We're all
suffering. Sin,
I want you to explain something to me, and Mo, you can jump in on this too. The racism awareness that's going on right now. The reason I got you two guys on the call, obviously, is right now I feel like most of the advice I'm getting on racism is from my white privileged friends.
Yeah, man, you're talking to each other. You ain't talking to us.
And so, I feel like also a lot of these people are, all over social media. They're on their iPhones at home with nothing else to do, and they're projecting the views that they think are right on everyone else. And I want you guys to just sort of speak to that and maybe shed some light on like the truth of what they should be focusing on. How do you tease out the difference of proper activism versus just hiding behind, doing it from the comfort of your own living room, right? When you have no experience yourself, or if you if you yourself aren't really going out to do things to make.
Well, I'm gonna try to take this, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you can come in. Listen, man, this is like a startup company. Like, most millions and millions and millions of people have never actually experienced racism before. A lot of these kids are teenagers. A lot of these people are older. There's a huge gap between the types of racism that I grew up with in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and now into the 2000s, than someone that's dealing with it now. I made jokes all night, man. I'm like, if y'all call this racism, every racist person in America should be upset, because this is not a very good representation of what's considered real racism. I've had white people look me in my eye and they wanted to kill me because I was Black. That is racism. If we can deal with that and not this petty shit, I know what you're saying, man. I'm sorry. But what I'm saying is, there's no book for this, right? You kind of have to deal with it on an individual basis. People are calling me, Sin, what do I do? Do I affiliate? Do I de-affiliate? Do I stay? I say, go with your gut. How you feeling in your heart? So people need to get out of this narrative that there's some kind of standard for how you support your Black friend, standard for how you support your Black community. Just listen to them, man. Are you okay? How you doing? And stop with the, you know, stay safe shit. Like, just, how you doing today, man? Good morning. Mike, John, you know, Jamal, whatever. Don't be on some, because what happens is, and you're talking to a guy who's getting hundreds of calls with this shit and text messages and emails. And it's like, okay, white people are not on the on the roof trying to kill every Black person that walks across the street. Like, we're not at that rate. We're not there. We have an isolated incident that we've dealt with for decades, man. This is not new. It was on television. It was on Instagram.
The isolated incident. You're talking about the police
I'm
brutality.
talking about George Floyd, man.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
There's no standards for how white people should come in solidarity. If you're a big corporation, write a check. If you're a Black person, you know, if you've got a Black neighbor, you know, maybe take them a pie or a cake and be like, listen, man, you know, I don't know what to do, but I know I needed to do something. Do something real. Don't do some fucking Black square shit. Like, go to a Black church, you know, sing along with the choir. Like, I don't know, dude. We're all in this together. Everyone's experiencing.
You know what?
I can
speak to kind of some of the stuff that's going on as well in that, where it's like you have, say, for example, him tweeting out something. That in itself is not the worst thing that ever has happened in terms of racist or discrimination. But I can tell you that the outright racist or the things that has happened in the past, they're not on the forefront. No one has ever called me the N-word. No one has like outright just like flat out attacked me, although I have been attacked before.
Right.
But it's one of those things where it's the systematic part of it, where I think you have the issues of people not being hired, people feeling excluded. Now, to me, I've said to other people, you know what? It's one thing to come out here and say, you know, you want to attack me, you want to like jump me in the street or whatever. That's fine. But my mom has been working in the school board for 12 years and somehow can't get herself a full-time position for no other reason other than, you know what, they're hiring somebody else who seems who is not qualified, but, you know, they're hiring the wider candidate and stuff like that. Those are the things that really harm our community. And
those are the things that are hard. Those are the things that are hard to erase.
Exactly. It's hard to erase that because that's an opportunity lost, and that's another family or a set of families that can't get anything.
Can we immediately say she did not get the job because she was Black?
That's exactly right. And I think that's why so many people are sensitive to what's going on, because you don't have an inherent sign or billboard being like, hey, you didn't get this position, or you didn't get this job, or you didn't get this opportunity because you were Black. It just happened that way.
Right.
And when you constantly see more and more qualified people not getting these opportunities, that's when you systematically see, okay, the machine is inputting a bunch of stuff, but only one kind of result is coming out.
Right.
That, I think, is what people are now getting more and more sensitive to. And I know Black people especially, we don't want to speak out and say right away, hey, that guy, you know, I didn't get this job because I was Black or something like that. It seems almost like we are, you know, like you said, pulling out the race card when it's when you're sensitive to that. But at the same time, too, when you constantly see the same type of person not being able to have access to that same opportunity, you have to say something. So for myself,
I'm sorry, Mo. Sorry about that. I would say this, man. You know, and this is, I don't know how you're gonna feel about me saying this, but it just made me better, dude. It just made me stronger. It made me figure out another way. You know, CrossFit was never going to just say, oh, Sin, you know, they were never going to come to Harlem and say, Sin, you know, jump on our community. No, I had to bring them, well, I had to show them the value. I had to show the value of having the Black community a part of this community. Like, I had to go above and beyond. I've taken almost, I can tell you, there's probably 3 Black people that I did not take to the games. Everyone else, I sponsored them. I made sure they were good. I took care of them when they went to the games. I coached them. Like, I had to make it a foolproof plan. It couldn't just be the affiliation and I'm in Harlem taking care of stuff. Like, I wanted to create the change where CrossFit would take us in, not because we got a gun to their head, but because we showed immense value.
No, you're absolutely right there. It's one of those things where, similar to what Pete was saying with like, why is this blowing up? I think a big aspect of it is when the messaging from CrossFit is they are trying to promote health. They're trying to make it a worldwide thing. They're trying to spread it through everywhere. And you know that, especially with chronic disease, diabetes, all these illnesses, these lifestyle sicknesses, and they are overrepresented in the Black communities and in minority communities. This is a prime opportunity for CrossFit to interject and say, hey, the numbers show that Black and brown people are experiencing these things, and we ourselves are trying to eliminate that from, you know, America, from the world through what we do.
So,
but when you don't have like flat out being like, hey, we want to interject, and there's no mention of it, you have to ask yourself, why is there no mention of it?
Hold that thought for a sec, because we can, you know, Sin, with your response to that, we can segue into sort of a thought I had, you know, also on that same level, Sin's talking about, you know, it's a multi-level sort of platform and sliding scale of like severe racism to,
yeah, man, there's different levels to this.
and
what sucks is they're grouping the entire racist community under one name,
right.
And you're not understanding the small nuances of that racist term, man. Like,
and
it's
so
much deeper.
I know, Sin, I know that you've been talking to Greg for the past little while, and I personally know that, you know, CrossFit, the company, and Greg Glassman himself has done a lot for visual minorities and underprivileged throughout the entire world. But specifically, more recently, Sin, you spoke with Greg, and you guys went back and forth about, you know, some before this whole thing blew up, some initiatives that you had.
Yes.
I just want you to speak to those a little bit, because I think that when everyone's so focused on,
yeah, they're missing the picture, man.
yeah, there's a little bit of a bigger picture kind of behind that tweet.
Yeah, they're stuck in their feelings, man. You gotta understand, man. Like, I spoke to him on Tuesday. He did the tweet on Saturday or something like that. So I'm like, man, I couldn't stop this guy from making a fool of himself. But, you know, in the interim, and I put everything out on my Instagram, man, probably about an hour ago. So I cropped conversations I had with him, and I tried to show it a genuine sentiment that I knew what I was possibly dealing with, man. My first text message to Greg was, Greg, you fucking up, man. You better fix, you know. I even sent him his driver's license, man. I was gonna come to his house. Like, I just wasn't playing no games, man. And, you know, I did that because I knew he was out of touch, man, and he needed to see me. You know what I mean? Like, he needed to see that familiar face that just happens to be Black, that just happened to have known him for 11 years, that just happened to have been talking about this 11 years ago, man. It's like going back in time, man. So originally we talked about doing a free CrossFit gym right in the middle of Harlem, man, free as fuck, or any and everybody can come and get this, taste this, and tell us what they think. And then we'll make adjustments along the way.
Yeah.
The second piece that we're going to have to drop now, the first piece we got to drop now, is we're going to start with the Black affiliates. We're going to make sure every Black affiliate either doesn't pay for the next year, and we start, you know, helping them with memberships, meaning we're just going to buy 2 memberships in your gym, man. How much for the year? How much for 2 years? And we'll either pay a year in advance or 2 years in advance. I'll make sure Greg writes a check individually to every single one of those CrossFits. You know, we're going to start with the Black ones. Unfortunately, it's It's kind of sick that it's come to this, but we're going to start with the black ones. And then we're going to make sure that every single affiliate across the world has at least 2 people. They can create that scholarship program how they want. We're not going to tell you how to do that. We're going to pay for it. And because we're paying for it, we just want to make sure that, you know, these are black and brown people. These are people that need it. And if you ain't got no black and brown in your neighborhood, take some senior citizens, you know, take some autistic person, take whatever. Like we've got to come together and we got to remind the world why we started CrossFit, why we thought it was so goddamn beautiful. And we got totally off track with the Fleo shorts and the dumb shit. We got to get back to center.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
if I can add into
Mo.
that, if I can add into that, I think was important to say, like, this week, and that was a thing that should have been said. But I think the problem here is people are looking to CrossFit HQ to kind of almost be the guiding force. I know it's just the company.
They always did that. Like,
but that's part of the problem
LBGT
is that
came up, when gay marriage comes up, any social thing that comes up, they're expecting CrossFit HQ to have like this kumbaya for every community when they're in disparity. I mean, the whole point was that we're like the secret weapon. We're coming around, you know what I mean? And we've been taking you from the inside out. We don't necessarily need to address gay people. We don't need, why? Because when you go to a CrossFit gym and there's 25 in there, we don't give a fuck if you're gay, straight, autistic, racist. We don't care. Are you going to quit on that workout? Did you cheat on your reps? What's up? Like, it's simple, man. We keep it super simple when we're in that gym, man. We don't give a goddamn.
I really got to say, though, but the biggest thing here is, I think with every affiliate, the growing sense of community, as well as the community through the open, everyone feels like we're all connected through this one thing.
We're all connected. We're fighting each other, man. Oh man, I was 141 last year. I'm gonna be 121. Oh man, Sin, you got in front of me, man. Damn you. Do you think he's asking me what my political view is before he has a real conversation with me? No, man. We found something that we could bond on, man. We found a little piece of unity. We found a little piece of utopia, man, and they're just trying to burn it down.
Well, you know what, man? A big problem though is the unrelenting of Greg Glassman, where
and that's why we love him.
But the problem is, man, that stuff is not going to fly in this day and age. People are not going to.
And now he got slapped in the face. He knows it, man.
Yeah,
before he was able to duck and dive, man. There's no ducking and diving this.
No, and it's become too big of a thing for him to, I feel like, be at the helm of it. But even then, if he's not listening to people in the community being like, "Hey, man, we need you to be better than what you are," and he's refusing to accept
it was
that.
Mo, right? Mo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Mo, just travel with me for a second.
Yes, sir.
You were about, let's say you're 40 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
You've been training people, let's say 20 years. You come up with a methodology in the middle of the night, man. You tell your wife that's next to you, man, I done came up with this thing. She said, what the hell is it? You know, we're going to put all this together, man. I've seen, bodybuilders do this and runners do that and cyclists do this. You know, what if we did something where we put it all together? She was like, Mo, you're stupid, man. Go back to sleep. Right? And then you finally, you really believe in it, but maybe your wife doesn't, right? So you go to the gym and you start practicing. Oh man, let me put something together. Let me put this workout together. Oh man, this looks pretty good. What if we, put sit-ups and this together and you make it for time? I think the for time is the answer. And you start practicing that. And then all of a sudden it went from you telling your wife something in the middle of the night to a $300 million company. My question to you is, who you gonna listen to? You just came up with this on your own, man. You're damn right. Your wife didn't even hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Some friends heard you. Some people heard you. You're going to alliance yourself with people that hear it. You're going to alliance sound. There was Tony Budding there. There was Dave there. Everyone played their role. What we're looking at now is a perfect storm because him and Dave were going for power of the company like a year ago, man. They were arguing over the shit. Greg took the shit back. But look, He took it back and he went back to the dumb shit, which is why Dave was put in. You hadn't seen, there's a lot of people I've never even met Greg. There's thousands, maybe even 1 million affiliate, people that are in the CrossFit community that never even met this guy.
I never heard his name until I took like my level 1.
Thank you, man. I didn't understand how big it was that he came to Harlem until until something like this, or now where it's like he's only come to Manhattan one time officially, and he came to see me. To me, that means something. But my point to you is I'm really trying to give you the perspective of a genius. The perspective of a genius is you have a thought that no one else on the planet does, and you saw it to fruition. There's millions and millions of thoughts that we all have every day, agendas we have, plans we have, but they never come to fruition. So you as and I'll take some things out and I'll make it a little bit more Greg. You're white, you're in Santa Cruz, you've got this super team of people, and regardless of what he would say about Glassman, he knows he doesn't know everything. He knows one thing, which is CrossFit. So he hired the best people. He had Nicole, he had Dave. These guys have ran this community. Greg is in the front. Greg is the drunk uncle now. He's become the drunk uncle because that takes his shirt off in the party and runs around and says dumb shit. I mean, that's always who he's been. But we can't take away from the fact that the man is a genius, that he built something in the middle of the night that we've all made millions of dollars off of, man. And when you do something like that, coming from someone like me that built AfroBrutality in the middle of the night, I turned to my girl, I was thinking this, turning, and I had to watch my entire community turn on me saying, that's that white people are going to hate you, man. That's the first thing they said to me. White people are going to hate you, man. And let me tell you something, I proved the exact opposite, man. White people have embraced me, and black people are the ones throwing mud at me. So I say that to say this, man. In the mind of a genius, it's very hard to listen to constructive criticism, anyone's opinion, being told what you should do, being told what you should say and not say. It's almost impossible. You are going to think that everything you say from here on out, because you did something that most of the world will never do, billions of people will never come up with original thought that actually seeds to fruition, that actually helps people, that actually makes millions of dollars for the community or for society. There will be billions of people that will live and die their entire life and never have one idea that ever works. So we're looking at the mind of a genius, man, and he's got some faults, man. Have you ever seen Beautiful Mind? He's not schizophrenic. He's not talking to himself, or maybe he is. We don't know. Like I'm not there with him, man.
Yeah, but I'll say
demons,
this,
man.
I'll say this, like however, it's incredible what was accomplished, and it's incredible what CrossFit grew into. And the big thing here, though, is the hubris that kind of comes with it. Like you said, you built all this, so now you feel like like you almost feel like no one could ever take anything away from you.
And really, that's white privilege, and that's part of white privilege. Considered racism.
And the biggest thing here is, like you said, knowing what you don't know, and trusting the people who you put around you. Who did you put around you? And are you listening to what they're saying? A big thing right now is it seems
were they saying anything?
Yeah, and
the people closest to him, man. They're gonna have to answer for some things because they know I was out there, man. They know I've been out here trying to do this, man. They just ignored me. Here it is, man. They didn't see the value. They just didn't, man.
Maybe they didn't, and that's the thing. We're not privy to a lot of that stuff because it's also like we don't right now we're seeing a lot of people from HQ resign. One of those things for me is maybe these people have felt like their voices have never been heard. They feel like maybe, hey, the community is speaking to us. We want to listen. We want to bring it to Greg, and Greg's not listening. And you know what? Things have ebbs and flows, and you have this huge multinational movement that started. This thing is going to still keep going, even if it takes another form, even if it becomes decentralized. But
Well, I'm not.
Problem here is
I'm not trying to defund the police, man. Like,
I'm not. I don't. Yeah, I don't care. I don't
what we
really.
got, man. I think we got something beautiful that's worth sharing, man. I
I
think we need
do,
to
but
bring it up.
I think also that it's outgrown
And
them.
Mo, I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't know if you're listening to me anymore, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we all know who this guy is. We just didn't say nothing because we've all been able to make millions of dollars off of it, man. There was a little bit of greed there, but it was, you can't tell a grown man what to do, man. You just can't.
Yeah,
I'm
listen,
not gonna
man.
come to your house and tell you what to tweet, man. I don't care. I don't care what you say, man. I'm gonna give you your Second Amendment right, and you can say what you want, man. You're gonna have to face the consequences, but you can say what you want.
So I want to. We've been talking for a long time, guys. I want to.
And I got about 2 minutes, man. I gotta go.
Perfect. So just to finish off, where does the CrossFit community go from here? How does, now we know that people need to start,
looking at, I'm getting calls and getting text messages and getting emails. It's going crazy.
People need to look at what CrossFit has done throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
Sin just talked about how he's going to be opening up some free programs for Black communities. And this isn't the first time that this has happened. So there's going to be the continuation of free programs for minorities and underprivileged through CrossFit. Sin, I want to ask you, where does the community go from here? What should the community do? If someone's listening to this and they're confused about the situation that's happening, they see people dropping left and right, the games is blowing up, people are de-affiliating, they're seeing staff members drop off like flies, they're confused. What do you do? What do you do?
They need to relax, take a deep breath, maybe go for a run, do a workout, drink some coffee. Like, it's getting handled, man. It's not right to put a gun to this man's head and tell him we're gonna take your money. Like, we gotta show some respect, man. We gotta respect each other. We gotta respect the process. If anyone on any planet in the entire universe thinks that I don't want this to happen right now or tomorrow, they done lost their mind, man. I've been working for this for 11 years, man. I want this better than any of y'all. Y'all are saying this to me, man. I want this more than anyone on the planet. Anyone.
And that's the thing I respect about you, Sen, is that a lot of people are just getting the news now that racism exists, or getting the news now that discrimination exists. I think for affiliate owners or people who, who just, everyone's prerogative is different. But I'll tell you this: if you are a box owner, if you're a member of the community, you can think about reaching out to your own community. It starts there. You look at and you say, hey, is there things that we can do? Can we set up after school programs? Because the kids who grow up and get exposed to CrossFit, those kids grow into the communities. They see a different light. They see a different world. And from there, they open up and they can go on to do other things. And I think from there, the growth happens in that area. It's important that there's outreach. It's important that you bring in people like Sin, like myself, who are, members of the Black community, who are like, hey, listen, I've seen this CrossFit world that's mainly white, and I've seen my own community, and I can try to bridge the gap. And you got to find invested people.
I'm getting so many calls, man. I need to say something, then I got to go, man.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Say your final piece, Sin, and then we'll let you go.
Well, I want people to learn from this experience how I went through this, man. I went into a community. I wasn't sure whether they were racist or not. We argued about it forever. We found a way to coexist with racist people, man. We figured out a way to look at the bigger picture, man. We figured out a way to get around the bullshit. We figured out a way to just unite each other and work with health and wellness in our community. And we did not care your social background. We didn't care whether you was a racist. Are you going to help us get that health and wellness in our community? Like, we saw past the labels and we look for the greater good, man. I really want people to understand how beautiful that is, man. Like, this is This is how we're going to we should deal with it as a society. You're a racist, you hate me, just don't kill me. Just don't say no dumb shit. Just don't do this, you know, and then let's keep talking. Maybe we can get at the heart of that matter. Maybe we can actually get to the heart of that, you know?